A prehistoric human stands at the bottom of a cliff. Above him, hidden inside a crack in the rock, is something that almost never existed in the ancient world: sugar. Not fruit sugar that disappeared after a season, not a few sweet berries that birds would reach first, but thick, golden, concentrated energy. Honey. The problem was it was guarded by thousands of insects that could attack all at once. And to reach it, a human might have to climb a tree, crawl into a hollow log, or hang from a cliff face with no rope, no gloves, no smoke machine, no medicine, and no real way to stop the swarm once it started. One mistake, and he could fall. One wrong movement, and the bees could cover his face. One bad reaction, and the food he was trying to steal could kill him. So the question is not just, why did ancient humans eat honey? The real question is, why was honey worth risking death for? Because to us, honey feels normal. It sits in jars, it goes into tea, it gets spread on toast. It feels like a small luxury. But for ancient humans, honey was not just a topping. It was fuel. In a world where food was hard to find, sweetness was rare. Most plants were fibrous, bitter, seasonal, or difficult to digest. Meat gave protein and fat, but hunting was dangerous and uncertain. Tubers had to be dug up. Nuts had to be cracked. Fruit appeared only at certain times. But honey was different. It was already processed. Bees had done the work. They had flown from flower to flower, collected nectar, transformed it, concentrated it, and stored it in one place. For a hungry human, finding a hive was like finding a natural battery hidden in the wild, a dense packet of energy. And that matters because the human brain is expensive. It burns a huge amount of energy compared to the rest of the body. So when ancient humans found a food packed with sugar, their bodies did not treat it casually. The brain wanted it. The tongue wanted it. The body remembered it. That may be why honey appears so deeply in human foraging behavior. Some modern hunter-gatherer groups, like the Hadza of Tanzania, still place huge value on honey. It is not just a random snack. It can become one of the most desired foods in the landscape, and that gives us a clue. Ancient humans may not have been risking death because they were reckless. They were doing a calculation: danger on one side, massive energy reward on the other, and sometimes the reward won. But here's where the story gets stranger. We know ancient humans cared about honey because they drew it. One of the most famous images is from Spain, often called the Man of Bicorp. It shows a human figure climbing toward a beehive, with bees swarming around them. This is not a painting of a king, not a battle, not a god. It is someone risking their body to reach honey. That detail matters, because prehistoric people did not draw every meal they ate. They chose moments that meant something, and this moment, a human climbing into danger for honey, was important enough to survive on a wall for thousands of years. It is almost like they were saying, this was worth remembering. But the most unbelievable part is that humans did not always find honey alone. In parts of Africa, humans have a wild partner, a bird, the greater Honeyguide. This bird has one strange talent. It can find bee nests hidden inside trees, cracks, and hollow spaces. But the bird has a problem. It cannot easily break open the hive by itself. Humans have the opposite problem. They can break open the hive, but they do not always know where it is. So the bird leads them. It flies ahead, calls, waits, and guides honey hunters toward the nest. The human opens it, takes the honey, and the bird gets access to wax, larvae, and leftovers. This is not domestication. The bird is not owned. It is not trained in a cage. It is a wild animal cooperating with humans because both sides get something. Before maps, before GPS, before written language, humans may have followed a bird through the wilderness to find sugar. And in some communities, this relationship became even more specific. Honey hunters use special calls to communicate with honey guides, not random shouting. Specific sounds that tell the bird, "I am looking for honey," and the bird responds. Even more interesting, some research suggests honey guides respond better to the local calls used by the people in their area. That means this is not just instinct, it can become regional, almost like different human groups developed different honey hunting dialects with birds. Think about how strange that is. A wild bird and a human can share a food finding system. The human cannot smell the hive, the bird cannot open it. but together they become better than either one alone. That makes honey hunting one of the weirdest partnerships in human survival. And honey was not the only prize. Inside a hive, there is also wax, larvae, and brood. To modern viewers, that may sound disgusting. But for ancient humans, the hive was not just a sugar container. It was a whole food package. Sweet honey, fatty larvae, useful wax. Beeswax could be used in ways honey itself could not. It could help with waterproofing, sealing, lighting, and storage. And that is important because honey almost never survives in archaeology. It disappears, it gets eaten, dissolved, destroyed, or absorbed. So archaeologists usually cannot find ancient honey itself. But wax can betray it. In some ancient pottery, researchers have found chemical traces of beeswax. That means even when the honey is gone, the hive leaves a fingerprint behind. The jar is empty, but the residue says, bees were here. This is one of the coolest parts of the story. The honey vanished, the wax confessed, and those traces show that humans were not just casually stumbling across hives. They were using bee products, carrying them, storing them, and making them part of life. But none of this removes the danger. A wild hive is not a grocery shelf. It is alive. It defends itself. And the more valuable the honey is, the more dangerous the raid becomes. The human has to get close enough to steal from a superorganism. Thousands of insects acting like one body. That is what makes honey so different from many other foods. A fruit tree does not chase you. A tuber does not attack your eyes. A nut does not swarm your face. Honey fights back. And yet humans kept going back. They climbed higher. They followed birds. They used smoke. They learned where bees nested. They remembered the seasons. They taught each other how to get close without being destroyed. Because honey was one of those rare ancient foods that changed the risk-reward equation. It was dangerous, but concentrated. Small, but powerful. Hidden, but worth finding. And maybe that is why the human craving for sweetness feels so intense today. In the modern world, sugar is everywhere. It is cheap, constant, and impossible to escape. But for most of human history, sweetness meant something else. It meant luck. It meant energy. It meant you had found a treasure that nature had locked behind pain. So when ancient humans saw honey, they were not seeing dessert. They were seeing survival. A cliff full of bees was not just a threat. It was a test. Can you reach the food without falling? Can you handle the swarm? Can you steal from the hive and live long enough to enjoy it? That is why ancient humans risked death for honey. Not because they were foolish, because in a world where calories were never guaranteed, honey was one of the only foods that made danger look reasonable.